Welcome to 1 Million Cups. As we get started here, we first want to find out, do we have any first-time visitors with us here today? Awesome. Let's give them a round of applause for coming out today. Do we have any of our savvy veterans with us? All right, awesome. Good to see you again. My name is Milton. I'm one of the organizers here with 1 Million Cups, and here I've got Lance, Courtney, Melissa, and Brian here with us this morning. For you first-time visitors, 1 Million Cups is a weekly educational program hosted by the Kauffman Foundation. Each week we have two entrepreneurs come and present their journey about the companies that they've started. Essentially, they'll speak for 6 minutes, and then we'll open it up to Q&A for another 15 to 20 minutes. So without further ado, we'd like to bring our first speaker to the stage. His name is Michael Wilson, and he owns a company called Niall. And Niall is a luxury goods company that's on a quest to create the next American luxury brand. I'll let Mike tell you more about it.
Thanks, Milton. How is everyone today? I'm glad you actually came out, because I was assuming with all the rain that there'd be maybe 5 or 6 people here, so it seems like it's a pretty good turnout. My name's Mike Wilson. I'm the founder of Niall. Niall is a company that's on a quest. We're on a quest to develop the next great luxury brand right here in America, and specifically right here in Kansas City. And we're starting with luxury timepieces. People often ask me why luxury timepieces, and that's a great question. I'll explain that here a little bit later. But I want to, before we go deeper, talk a little bit about a few core things about our company that really drive who we are and what we do. And those 3 things are: 1, conquer for good. It's a concept that we have, that we believe it is okay to be successful. It is okay to relentlessly compete in the marketplace, but you should also do that ethically, and you should also give back. And so we have a very core foundation of us of working with entrepreneurs and giving back within the community as a core philosophy of our company. Another one is craft with honor. Crafting with honor for us as an American company means looking to source things in America, produce things locally when we can, produce things in Kansas City when we can. And as a showcase here in a few minutes, I'll show you the Niall 1, our debut product, which is a showcase of the American production that we've managed to achieve. And the third thing is being all-inclusive. As a luxury goods fashion brand, we believe that it is important to embrace the diversity and culture of mankind and reflect that within our photography and the things that we do. And that may seem like a normal thing to do, but in the fashion and luxury goods industry, that seems to be completely absent in modern times. A lot of people ask me, why did we produce a luxury watch? And that's a really great question, because it's really difficult to do. And that's one part of it. But another part of it really stems from a personal passion for watches, paired with a background in manufacturing and really a love for American muscle cars. And I have this 1968 Corvette, which you'll see up in the upper right corner, and it's loud and somewhat obnoxious, and it's got great classic design to it. It made me fall in love with the old American mechanisms that we used to build. And with the days of modern day electronics and electric cars, this is a timeless American piece that just never goes out of fashion. And that's really what inspired Niall to go in the direction that we did. So as we looked at building luxury timepieces, we learned a couple things. I want to share a couple facts that we found out in this process and on our quest. One of them is 60% of consumers in America, as well as China, are willing to spend 10 to 80% more for a luxury product that is made in America. And what this made us realize, seeing the statistic, was that there must be some value in things that are American-made. People must respect the hard path that people have to go through to build things in America. And so we got in our mind that, okay, this seems like a good perspective to build something here in America, a luxury timepiece. And then we got into what's the potential of this. We learned that 23 out of 25 of the top luxury timepiece companies are actually luxury companies. So that means by revenue, so many of these brands you'll see here, by revenue, these are your top 25 brands. Only 2 of them sell products for less than $3,500. So for us, we saw, okay, there's an opportunity to build this thing in America, but we need to build it really well. We need to build a phenomenal product. And we don't want to be a low-cost, low-price leader. We want to build something people want to pay. So our debut product is the Niall 1. Before I talk about the Niall 1, I want to tell you a little bit about what we want to represent. 1 with the company, but as well as the product. We want to represent and we want to focus our time and energy on representing those that are all in. This is a core concept for us, and you'll hear me say it a lot. All in is a lot of the people that are here today. It's myself, it's Alec Matlock, it's all these people that are relentlessly and passionately looking to succeed, the ones that are out building their ideas, the ones that stay up late at night and get up early in the morning to follow their dreams and the passion. It is the modern day entrepreneur, and these people are what drive America, and that's what we want to represent as the best of America, the people that drive it. So this concept of all in is what we want to represent. And you'll find in the luxury goods industry, you'll find companies that reflect aviation or diving or just general cultural status. This is where we want to be. So here's a first shot you see of our product. What's interesting about this is that we've been on a quest to figure out how to build this in America, and now we have a product that is 93.3% made in America by components. It's a very bold, classic design. We've gotten a lot of really great feedback from customers and people in the marketplace with it. And what's interesting is figuring out how to build your own watch. You can either ship it to somebody else and do it all and just show up at your facility and package it up and sell it online, but we are actually crafting each individual component with partners all over America. It's all stainless steel construction, and one real unique piece is this is the first non-touch application for Corning Gorilla Glass. The glass that is on this watch is Corning Gorilla Glass, which was a very exciting company to work with in the production of this. And furthermore, we figured out how to build a luxury timepiece in a just-in-time manufacturing setup, so where we don't have to invest to buy 10,000 watches in order to turn a profit, or if there's an error with it, be able to iterate and make a better product. So when you order a Niall 1 today online, we start the manufacturing process tomorrow, and in 3 to 5 weeks, you get your product. And so we're able to literally one-off craft a luxury timepiece. At the core of what we do is transparency. As I talked about, we make it in America, but we also tell you where we made it in America. So you'll see a map here, which is actually interactive on our website. You can go through and component by component learn where we make things. We make our dials here in Lee Summit. We assemble things in Kansas City. So at the core of us is this transparency, and we want to share this experience of what we're building. And one of the most exciting parts of this is we take all the components that we build in America and bring them right here to Kansas City. We polish them, assemble them, test, and ship them right in the Crossroads at 1810 Cherry, which is the Enginology Accelerator, which is one of our strategic partners. So we've managed to figure out a very difficult path and get down to a place where we're producing things right here in Kansas City. A lot of people ask me, where are we going with this? You've built one luxury timepiece, that's great, but what's next? The future for us is in 3 things. 1, expanding our current product lines in order to appeal to a more mass crowd. Our current design is a very bold design, but it appeals to a specific group of individuals. That is one piece of it. The other piece is a sister brand that we want to create called Karen. Right now, Niall is an all-men's line. And we believe, as earlier, being all-inclusive, we wanted to create a brand that represents strong women. We didn't really want to create watches that are rhinestoned with pink roses and all sorts of things that we as men think women want. And so we're producing a sister brand named Karen that focuses on strong women. And so next year you'll see the expansion of us into women's timepieces and goods. And then beyond that, I say that we want to create the next luxury goods company. We didn't say we wanted to create the next great timepiece company. So for us, our biggest growth is competing in a bigger pool. It's competing against some of the most valuable brands you've seen, like Louis Vuitton and Zara. So for us, the real beauty is being able to move beyond current product lines and expand that into more US-made, well-crafted luxury items. I get asked a lot, how can you help? How can I help you guys? I'm really excited. How can I help you? And the best thing everybody here could do is help us share our story. We've got a story about American manufacturing and producing here, and we're producing some really great products, which afterwards I'd love to show you this if you want to come up and look at our packaging and play with the watch itself. Happy to show you. But share our story, tweet it, interact with our brand. Buy me lunch or a bottle of scotch and ask me questions. I'm happy to take free lunch or a free bottle of scotch. That's probably my personal favorite. So this is the end of the presentation, and we are Niall, and we are all in.
Mike, thank you.
Thank you.
So one of our first questions as we open it up to the audience for Q&A, can you tell us a little bit about your early successes so far?
Sure. So we launched our brand a couple weeks ago, and I had it's interesting stories of entrepreneurs in Kansas City on a global landscape. This product has now been viewed and purchased globally. As an early success, I actually, right before I launched this, Nathan Jones, who's the founder of Ag Local, a Kansas City guy, former Kaufman guy, him and I have been friends for quite some time, and we reconnected in the production of this watch. And Nathan was connected to some very high-level Silicon Valley individuals, VC firms, as well as some high-profile and high-net-worth celebrities. And Nathan really liked our story and what we were doing, and so Nathan connected us to some very well-known venture capitalists and musical artists and managed to get our timepieces within a very seeked-upon group. And so for us, the early successes have been great. We've gotten a lot of really good feedback, some great press and TechCrunch, as well as one of our first purchasers of a Niall One is one of the most well-known venture capitalists in all of Silicon Valley. So we're very excited very early on that, one, we've had the success we have and the tension that we have, but better yet, that a Kansas City native that's out doing big things himself really dipped back into Kansas City to help us get to a national scale and international scale immediately. So just got back from Silicon Valley, and it was a great time.
Can you also tell us a little bit about your background? I know that in designing luxury watches, it's a very meticulous process. Can you tell us a little bit about your background and how you came to your designs and so forth?
Sure. Designing a timepiece does not mean that you need to be a Swiss certified watchmaker. So often people ask me, are you a watchmaker? And the answer is no, I'm not a watchmaker. Neither is Richard Mille, and he sells $85,000 watches. A little bit different price point, add a couple zeros to my price point. In this quest for over the past 2 years, we collaborated with a lot of people, manufacturing companies, people that were watchmakers, engineers. And so going through this design process, we really looked at what's the best thing that we create. And frankly, in the manufacturing process, we chose a very difficult design. You'll notice it has a screw-in bezel. And with a screw-in bezel, you have to take they're 1 millimeter in width. And when you drill a 1 millimeter hole, you also have to tap and put a thread in that 1 millimeter hole. And that's really tiny. That's the size of a pencil. And so we worked with over 75 companies to find one that was able to achieve this at a price point that we could deliver to the marketplace. So my background was in manufacturing prior to this, working at a couple manufacturing firms, but the quest to where we are today is really the power of collaboration and the power of American innovation, in my opinion.
Mike, I got a question for you back to the left.
Yes.
Hi, I really like your brand and your story as well, really compelling, love that. I have a question for you. I've always kind of considered luxury goods as being dependent on a good American economy, here in the States at least. Whenever the economy tanks, it seems like luxury goods are the first thing to suffer a hit because people pull back on those kinds of goods. So my question is, what are the kinds of things, the forward-looking kind of visions you have, things that you're doing to maybe mitigate that dependency on the economy?
That's a good question. I'm not an economist, but I'll give you an answer that makes me sound like one. For us, growth and expansion internationally is really core to what we want to do. Europe is very big on luxury goods. A lot of people have never heard of Zara, one of the largest luxury goods in the world, and they do a lot of business in Europe. For us, we want to expand beyond America because you can't rely just on one country. China, for example, has potentially the largest growth for luxury goods for anybody, no matter who the brand is. Fortunately, statistics show that they really like American brands in China. So that really works good for us. But to mitigate our risk on an economic landscape, it's going to be having partners selling online, and being able to be on a more global and international landscape. And frankly, that's going to be the best opportunity for us.
We got a question in the back, right?
Are you looking for investment capital?
I'm always willing to listen to anyone that is willing to invest. At this time, we have a model where our initial seed funding provided by Enginology and our other partners 100% get us to a place where we can scale this company and not require outside investment. However, we do have some very big visions for what we want to do. Right now, we're using a Swiss movement with inside our watch. It's the 6.6% of components that is not American. So we have a very lofty goal of figuring out how to produce an American-based movement. That's something we will need investment capital for. So while Niall may not be something that we take investment with today, I never say no, because you never know when you're going to need the money. But we do have some very lofty goals. So if anyone is interested, I would love to talk over coffee and really talk about the big visions for where we need help.
We've got a question here in the back.
Hi, Michael. My name is Shane, and I'm with the company down in Brookside. And we got a contract with Google in May. And what we do is we create Google virtual tours for retail storefront locations. And we can do that for any business, any office space. And I wanted to find out what your strategy was moving forward to actually implement a storefront or a retail location for your product line.
Sure. Good question. We've got kind of because we're different in how our approach has been to luxury goods. You know, we're housed in an old Springworks factory down at 1810 Cherry, so it's a very non-traditional watch company, a luxury goods company that we're producing. Right now, we're in talks with a few people that are retail locations. I don't know yet. It is not currently slated for us to open our own boutiques, like you would see with a Hublot or a larger brand. However, we are open to multiple ideas, but for us, we want to change the retail landscape, and we will be starting out with retail locations, working with great high-end jewelry and timepiece companies. But we also want to implement a philosophy of what we call ambassadors. How do we create people within multiple cities that are really our brand ambassadors, not from a traditional thing where you see Leonardo DiCaprio with his hand up taking pictures, not that type of brand ambassador, but individuals that can act as a concierge between people that want to buy a product or want to see an early access to other products. And so we've got a lot of things slated. Right now it's growth into retail locations, partners, but we also do have some big plans for shifting the balance of that landscape through a non-traditional format.
Mike, I got a question for you in the back.
How's it going, Mike?
How you doing?
So you talked about community innovation, maybe a little bit of maker community. Can you tell, you had some experiences and encounters with that in Kansas City. Can you tell me some things that you're kind of encouraged by and some things that we need to fix as kind of being engaged and consuming of that community?
Sure, that's a really great question. One of our big passions is manufacturing, so I can talk forever about manufacturing, but when we went to produce this, we wanted to begin in Kansas City. We wanted to figure out how to make a luxury timepiece, crafting metal, CNC, doing the drilling and tapping, everything here in Kansas City. And that just was not possible. We shopped all the major CNC shops, and they told us that they wouldn't even bid on it. So the level of precision that we needed, which was down to the micron level, didn't exist in Kansas City, so we went elsewhere. San Diego, San Francisco, LA, Pennsylvania, Dallas, Texas, many other places in order to begin sourcing our components. So from the what we need to work on side is pushing ourselves. A lot of companies get into a place where they get into stamping and they don't get into precision stamping, or they don't explore the R&D process of that. And so you get very specialized groups that aren't diversified enough that when the market changes or some other technology comes out, they're gone overnight. So for us, we would really love to see more people push themselves, integrate new technology, and work on the precision side of things. The Swiss and the Chinese are great at precision. Americans are great at large capital equipment, and that's what we've done for such a long time. The things that I've been encouraged by has really been the power of the collaboration in this city. Working with Enginology has opened up a lot of doors with us. Mark Orenick, who is with Salva Orenick Enginology, he has connected us, and the people that magnetically have been pulled to this has been fantastic. So once we launched this company, everyone in Kansas City has been so supportive, and really everybody in America has been supportive, helping us share our story and integrate us with other people and connect us with other people. And so it's been really exciting how great of a support system is in Kansas City, and working with Mark, how great and easy it was for us to get capital early on and really help us act as a scalable enterprise rather than a little startup. And that's really, I think, a key thing to the growth of Niall has been acting like an enterprise and not necessarily a classic, what you'd consider a startup.
We've got a question for you here in the front.
Hey, so last week we had a really great conversation about capital in Kansas City, and I know since you've kind of used that traveling back and forth to the coast, can you talk a little bit about maybe what advantages we have here in that world and what shortcomings we have, in your opinion?
I will say, going out to Silicon Valley, they're really savvy. Even your normal everyday person that you see at the coffee bar is savvier than I think 70% of us. It was really mind-blowing. I thought I was on top of my game, and then I'm hearing people throw stuff out about raising funds and all sorts of ratios, and I'm not a math guy, so it kind of just blew by me. But they were very, very savvy in Silicon Valley. However, I do believe there's a core difference in the culture of people in Silicon Valley versus here, and that's a difference of playing the money-raising game versus playing the money-making game. In Kansas City, we're worried about how is this going to make money immediately? How is this going to pay back and have an ROI? What is the path to revenue? How quickly can we get there? In Silicon Valley, it doesn't necessarily matter because there's so much capital to put together. It's all about, can I build this long enough to be an acquisition? And at the acquisition, we're going to get our money. So it was very fascinating because they were very, very savvy, knew how to run companies, great companies. But it was more focused on the acquisition game than the money-making game.
Question for you up front.
Michael, you're a great communicator. Where'd you learn your skills?
Wow, I wasn't expecting that question. A lot of experience, I would say. No formal training. My mother, at a very young age, my mother's a teacher at Shawnee Mission School District, and she believed it was very, very important for me to learn how to communicate, so she shoved me into speaking opportunities and throwing me into small groups of individuals to just talk. So what I'm doing now is just really what I've been forced to do by my mother for many, many years. So thank you, Mom.
Got another question here in the middle.
Good morning. Can you tell us what the origin of the name of the company is?
Sure, I would love to tell you that. Niall is a 4th century Irish king, and he's somewhat of a mythology figure, very King Arthur-like. And through a DNA test about a year ago, I found that I'm a direct descendant of this King Niall, myself as well as a million other individuals around all the United. He's a very prolific man of his time. But thank you, because I'm here today. But what's interesting is Niall, while he's known kind of Genghis Khan-like from the idea of he has lots of descendants, he was the first man to unite Ireland into all of what is modern-day Ireland. And he created the O'Neill name and the O'Neill dynasty, which lasted 1,000 years. And so it was this concept, as we started investigating him, a lot of mythology and story wrapped behind him of conquering, but conquering for good. You know, he conquered land, but it was always about uniting Ireland. And so there's a lot of things that Niall did that really went into our core philosophy about being all in and conquering for good and that type of stuff. And the name Karen was actually Niall's mother, which the name Karen itself in Irish mythology means protector of children. And that's where we got the idea of building a brand around Niall's mother's name, representing strength.
Mike, got a question for you in the middle.
Good presentation. First of all, I'm a Rolex guy. I'm sorry about that.
Maybe I can convert you.
And I paid a premium for my Rolex just so I could go into a conference room and show off my Rolex and show some sign of success and that kind of stuff. Have you ever thought about joint venturing with some famous name company or something like that? You can still keep your name, but you can call it an affiliate of so-and-so to give yourself some name recognition and that kind of stuff?
You know, for us, as we've noticed in the timepiece market, it's very secluded. So everyone's very siloed, and there's not a whole lot of collaboration that happens between Swiss and Americans or Swiss and Germans. The Swiss themselves have figured out how to run it like a cartel and work with each other very, very well. For us, we view our best way in order to build brand cachet, like you're talking about with Rolex, where Rolex is a status. You buy one and you're immediately within a certain status within the market. For us, the success we had with Nathan of getting it connected to the same individuals that own Hublots and own Pateks and own Rolexes, we want to be considered alongside them or an equal. And that's really on our quest to build an American brand. The last great American watch company was Hamilton Watch Company, sold out in 1971, I believe. And the Swiss bought them, all their equipment, all their engineers, and moved it all to Switzerland. And so that last great American brand has not been around coming up on 50 years. And so for us, we've kind of got this ideal that we can build something of equal status to a Louis Vuitton or to a Rolex over time, but right here in America. So it's part of that quest. And that will be through the interjection of our watches in culture and Hollywood and the other places where we get the buy-in from individuals that like our concept and being all in.
So what would you say to those that mention that, you're talking about the Swiss, and we know that Swiss watchmakers are incredible at what they do. Being that you manufacture the product here in the United States, how do you compare as far as like the Swiss movements and things like that?
Well, it's a really great question. Our specific timepiece uses what is called an automatic mechanical. It means that you wear it day in and day out, and there's a little pendulum that goes around that winds a spring, and it continually keeps time. You never have to have a battery. That's part of the reason why it's expensive, because it's over 300 years of mathematics, engineering, and physics jammed together in a 30-millimeter case. It's a wild technology that's built on a bunch of really tiny gears. When you're comparing things, there's all sorts of stuff, like quartz movements that run off batteries that are cheaper, plain mechanical movements that you have to wind, that don't automatically wind themselves. And so when you compare them across the world, this technology's been around for 300 years. There's just a handful of people that have the technology and the equipment and the knowledge to be able to produce it. And so producing it in America, we'll be able to be equal to the Swiss from pure component, pure statistics, how everything works, but it's acquiring that knowledge. The Swiss have over 350 years of accumulated knowledge, and that's really why they dominate the marketplace. And the Japanese and the Chinese have gotten into that fray back in the 70s. The Americans just haven't done it. And so there are several companies like us on this quest, but I think our quest and the people that we've worked with will yield some awesome results in the next few years.
Cool. Thanks, Michael, for coming out and presenting. Last question for you. How can us as a 1 Million Cups community help you?
The best way to help us is help us share our story. If you know someone we can talk to within the press, if you can tweet this, if you can just help us share our story and talk to the world about this, that is the best thing Kansas City can help us with.
Give Michael a round of applause, please. All right, before our next presentation, I got a few announcements. The Entrepreneurial Leadership Project at Mid-America Nazarene University is hosting a Connect event at the food truck stop at the Crossroads this Friday from 5 to 6:30. It's open to everyone. It's a great way to further connect with the community and learn more about Kauffman and Fast Track programs. All right. Intro to Angel Investing with Rick Vaughn. Today is the last day to sign up for tickets. It's going to be September 4th at the ECJC Enterprise Center of Johnson County. So if you're interested, be sure to sign up today. And finally, we are welcoming our 53rd 1 Million Cups today. Portland, Oregon just joined the team. So we're excited to have them on board. All right. Our next up is Christopher Barron. He works with Traveling Nuker, and they provide scheduling and hiring contact information for unionized nuclear plant services. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Chris Barron, and I'm going to be telling you a little bit about the company I created, Traveling Nuker. I'm going to start by giving you our one-liner. Our company connects the union building craftsmen, carpenters, pipe fitters, laborers, sheet metal workers, with maintenance work in the U.S. nuclear power plant fleet. All right, any questions? Now, when I tell people about our business, the first thing they think is, wow, that's incredibly niche, right? Well, it is, but nuclear electrical generation in the United States is 20% of all of our electricity production. That means 1 in every 5 American homes is powered by a nuclear reactor. We have 100 of these all across the United States. Globally, as a country, we produce 30% of nuclear electricity generation, which is the largest number by volume in the world, and we have 5 units under construction. So let's take a little plane ride over here to Wolf Creek, Kansas. This is our closest nuclear power plant. And let's imagine that I'm a nuclear power plant manager, okay? Nuclear power plants stay online 90% of the time. That means I have 1 month every 2 years to load fuel at my plant, and more importantly, do all the maintenance that I need to do to make sure that my plant's going to run for 2 years. I don't have the staff in-house to complete all the activities that need to be completed in a month. So I need to mobilize 1,000 to 3,000 traveling nukers, we'll call them, tradesmen that need to come to my plant to help me complete this mission. And how do I do that as a plant manager? I'm going to get in contact with 10 different union halls to get all the craftsmen that I need to staff my job. I also have a unique challenge. I don't want to publicize when I take my plant offline because I have to buy electricity off of the power grid. And if my competitors know exactly when my plant goes offline, that might be an economic disadvantage for me when I have to buy that electricity to make sure everything runs smoothly. So if we blow this up on a national scale, what does this look like for the country? There's 440 union halls that provide this national workforce of 250,000 people. These union halls might have other labor demands for projects that are happening in their local areas. So the nuclear utilities are waiting to the last minute to tell these union halls what's happening. They may have other large jobs where they have a lot of demand for labor. So you can see that this is a very just-in-time kind of business. So what is a traveling nuker? And hopefully I get credit here for being the first person to wear a hard hat at a 1 Million Cups presentation. But I am a traveling nuker. I am a carpenter and I build scaffolding in these nuclear power plants. But let me tell you a little bit more about myself. I started my first computer consulting company when I was 16. I started work at IBM when I was 20. At 24, I was a CTO equity partner in a small firm that we'd built. One of our founders kind of left us on short notice, so I decided to take a pivot with my life and join the Carpenters Union. To date, I've spent 6,000 hours in 20 different outages at 13 different US nuclear facilities. And I've identified a problem that my fellow traveling nukers have. And that brings us back to what exactly do we do? Why does this matter? These jobs are 30 to 90 days in duration. It's the contractor's responsibility to find his next job. And they're working 7 days a week, 12 hours a day. So as a craftsman, you could go ahead and do all the legwork that we've done for you, sacrifice 4 hours of sleep. Let's say you're on day 28 of 12-hour shifts. You can sacrifice 4 hours of sleep to figure out who you need to call. And hopefully you don't go into work and drop some large, heavy industrial object on your coworker for this lost sleep. Or you could subscribe to our service and make life a lot easier for yourself. Now these craftsmen, there's no resume involved. Their union credentials are recognized nationally, so I just get on the telephone with the business agent and say, here's my union ID. I'm interested in working at your job. What does this look like? We're going to go through this very quickly. This is our user interface. It's set up to be very simple for blue-collar workers, people that aren't typically involved with computers often or office work. As you can see, we get very detailed down here in our data table. We've got tons of information that you can't find anywhere else on the internet. You know, the union hall telephone numbers, pay rate, benefit breakdown information on unemployment laws in each of these states. We even go down as far as telling them the business agent's name that they're going to be talking to on the phone as they drill down. All right, this is a great story, right? How do we make money? We're charging the actual construction worker the subscription fee. And what does this look like? Well, we have at least 250,000 of these guys. So I'm going to have a little fun today and assume 100% penetration. Why not? 250,000 people, they pay us $10 to $20 a month, but whether they pay us annually or monthly. So that's $30 million, our potential market size here. I think we can survive on that, right? Maybe we can buy a few watches for Michael. So 30 million of man-hours of maintenance performed in these plants each year, and my construction workers are making $25 to $39 an hour. So our little $120 or $240 fee is well within their reach. How do we scale, right? Well, we're going to provide lifestyle services for these guys, helping them with places to stay, helping them with tax preparation, travel time and distance tools, because they might start at home and go to a job here and then look at jobs here, here, and here, so they need to know how to get to those jobs and what it's going to cost them. And then we can move on to other traveling worker industries. And I'm just going to leave this slide up here as a teaser. My 6 minutes is over. But if a brave audience member would like to ask me what this picture is doing here, I'll be happy to answer that.
Excellent presentation. So we'll start by maybe letting someone ask what that picture is. Hang on.
So tell us where you are in your journey. How many of these workers have subscribed to your service? How long have you been in business? Because I recognize you've been here before, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, a while back.
Yes.
But tell us, so how has that journey been since you were here before? And how well are you doing?
Absolutely. So our website has been online for a little over 2 years, about 2 years and a month now, and we spent about a year and a half in development before we were live and collecting customer money. Right now, we have about 1% market penetration, a little shy of our fun 10% or 100%. We presented last year at 1 million cups, and since then, we've added in all the pay rate and benefit information. We've changed our workflows a little bit to try to lead the customers through the sign-up process. We try to do everything on a very automated basis. So when a new customer decides, they go to our website and they decide they want to purchase, that entire chain of them purchasing and subscribing with us is completely automated. There's no human interaction there. So if I get a floodgate of 20,000 traveling Nukers that want to buy my site tomorrow, we have all the scalability and everything in place that my website doesn't go down and I don't lose all those sales. So we've spent a lot of time adding information, interacting with our customers, trying to find out what their genuine needs are and how to lead them along. Our biggest challenge is getting qualified lists of sales leads, because it's kind of a very specific market, union craftsmen in the United States. There's not a lot of places where we can get cold calling lists from. One of our attack vectors there is to partner closer with the unions, because they have that information, but the unions are going to be very careful in trying to promote a commercial interest. So our tool is designed to be an aid for the unions. However, it's very important that they understand that and they're in agreement with that. Otherwise, they could be a big barrier to entry for us to be successful if they decide that we don't align with their values.
We've got a question in the back left.
Hi there, my name is Bill. My question deals with confidentiality, because one of the major challenges to the plant manager is to keep the information kind of close to their vest of when they're going to be shutting down for the maintenance. Are your workers who are signing up with your service signing a non-disclosure agreement that they won't, they can look for the job, but they can't necessarily leak that information to the other plants, maybe where they're working right now?
What happens in the industry, the utility company doesn't want to publicize this information very widely, but the construction companies themselves and all the people that do need to rely on this information, they usually crowdsource a lot of this information, and that's what we do as well. Part of our product, we actually analyze a lot of data from the NRC, looking at how past outages have happened. So our goal is to get better at predicting these actual outages. Some of our scheduling information is not 100% accurate. But as we get better at this process, because a nuclear plant is like a car, it has certain maintenance things that need to happen on certain intervals. So as we get a better picture of that, we can predict the schedule better. The utility companies, obviously, they want to keep this as close to the vest as they can, but if you're generating 900 megawatts of electricity, there's going to be some people that pay attention and understand what your schedule is approximately going to look like. It may not be a day-by-day thing, but you're going to this is going to happen every 18 or 24 months, approximately.
I've got a question for you in the back.
So are you in like a chicken and egg scenario right now? Like, do you have the jobs at the nuclear plants that you have, and why did you choose this pricing model as opposed to charging the employer versus charging the worker?
There's a couple of things with that, and actually I happen to have the interface up here so I can show you exactly what this looks like. So these are the upcoming jobs as soon as I hit upcoming here. So we do have this data, and there's kind of an interesting thing with how this workflow works, right? The union hall is the one responsible for supplying the labor. There will be a contracting company that will ask the union hall to give them those leads, and then the power utility is going to hire that contracting company to get the workers. So there's a little bit of a different workflow than a standard job application, right? So we want to be an aid for the unions. The unions hold a majority market share on the nuclear industry. Over 90% of the plants are unionized. And also, we want to further labor unions in general as a mission of our company. So this is why we've decided to go with the pricing model of charging the contractor directly as opposed to the companies or the unions. We would like to build tools for them in the future as well to help manage these lists of people, these new leads that they're showing up with now. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I guess your problem is customer acquisition as far as the workers, but why not just partner with the union companies and cut them in?
That is a good point. That could be a possibility as well, licensing this out to one of the larger players. I guess our big concern there would be to make sure that we keep our market size large enough that we can be sustainable on that vertical anyways.
I've kind of got a twofold question. Are you involved only in like the repair of the power plants or the construction also?
Both of them. So you would see jobs listed for both of those on our site.
So I'm curious if you're involved in the construction. I think the construction of most power plants happens outside of the U.S. right now. I think overseas, would that be accurate?
We actually have 6 new plants in construction now. This is a recent development. We haven't had any new plants come online since the late 80s when we had the 3 Mile Island incident that really shut down new construction of nuclear power. What the industry has done in the interim, instead of constructing new plants, is they've upgraded old plants. So they've given them 10, 15, 20, 23% was the greatest power increase. So they've just kind of gone around that political process of having to build something new. They'll just gut an old plant and uprate it.
So I'm thinking of that question in terms of scale. Like you mentioned, the workers that you have have world-class credentials, and I'm wondering, as a traveling nuker, if this is something you might be able to scale even internationally because of their skill sets.
Absolutely. We could be attacking other industries. There's a nuclear industry in Canada, for example. We've chosen to focus in on the United States in the beginning because we have a lot of good data from the Nuclear Regulatory Commission, and we understand how to navigate all the US-based stuff. But absolutely, there is certainly a world-based market. France, for example, they produce 80% of their power via nuclear. So they have quite a lot of reactors. We're only 30% of worldwide electricity production, so that means there's another 60 or 70% out there in the rest of the planet. So absolutely.
I've got a question for you. That's your website live, is that correct?
Yes.
Could you kind of talk through what the website does and how it works? Can you dive into it a little deeper?
Absolutely. So I will actually show you our closest competitor and explain what they have and, explain what they have to show you kind of compare and contrast. So you can see their website design is not the most current ever. So this is a crowdsourced website that lists the plants alphabetically, and in this giant data table over here, there are some start dates for the outages over here. We take this, here's our UI. You can sort by whatever you want. So right now we're sorted by start date, so we see this list organized by start date, and we can add in all sorts of information here, whatever we want to see in this table. And that'll add it down in the table here. And then as the user wants to find additional information, like they click on here, this gives us more information to drill down to. So you can also search for things. Say you want a longer outage, 40 days, you can hit search. And this will give you the list of only the 40-day or more outages. So there's a lot of tools there to help the user dial into the information that they want to see versus our closest competitor, and they don't even list telephone numbers. They just have a static table.
Got another question here in the front.
So what was that blue stuff on the screen?
Absolutely. Let me pop back to that slide really quickly. Now, this is a fun little science lesson. If Prezi is going to play nicely, which it's probably not. So here you see, these are actually active reactor pools at US nuclear plants. And most people believe that radiation glows yellow, right? You saw that on the Simpsons TV show. Well, radiation actually glows blue. There's a few caveats to this. These are fuel rods. They have to have been exposed to the chain reaction. And they only glow blue while they're submerged in their moderator. But radiation actually glows blue. I have another fun little demo up here. I can't say this is the first time for having uranium at 1 million cups, because I did it last year, but this is a small little uranium sample. No need to step back, everything's safe. One thing that people don't understand often about radiation is it functions the same way as magnetism. Right? You have two magnets close together, they're very strong. You start to pull them apart even a little bit, they lose their force very considerably. So this is a naturally occurring uranium sample. You need about 100,000 times this field to produce blood changes your body can fix, and 300,000 times this field to kill you in 2 weeks. So as I take this sample, I'm going to get this on the mic here. As I take the sample and set it right on the detector, it's going crazy, right? I pull it back just a little bit. The clicks slow down quite a bit. I pull the sample out here. There's really no effect on the meter. The beeps that you're hearing, that's just background. And actually, if we took this guy outside and went out into the sun, it would be going a little bit crazy too, because the sun is one of our biggest sources of radiation. So you can imagine, as you think about nuclear accidents, the amount of field intensity you'd need for you to feel this effect at the property line of a plant, which is approximately 5 miles from the center of the reactor. It's kind of a fun little lesson about how radiation actually works.
Got a question for you in the middle.
Mm-hmm. Who does the background checks on your people, like the I-9s and that kind of stuff?
So when a contractor is hired, they'll go through a contracting company, and the utility company is responsible for that. So if I'm a first-time worker, they have this thing called the PHQ, the Personal History Questionnaire. And I have to list my entire criminal history back to when I was 18 years old, every address that I lived at. I have to provide references, and they have to provide additional references. So this whole background check process, that's the responsibility of the nuclear utility that is providing access for that contractor. So it's pretty elaborate to begin with, but as you've already been badged, as they call it, in one of these reactors, when you go to the next reactor, you only have to complete this history check back until the last time you were checked. So this is a reason why the utility companies would appreciate something like this, because I'm promoting returning workers, which costs them a lot less money in training and background checks. And it's also easier for the construction worker because now they have a credential having this access, nuclear access, that makes them more attractive to the other utility companies.
Got a question to your right.
How's it going?
Good.
So you mentioned your kind of current market size is about $30 million. So that is not normally conducive to a growth startup, and so that probably limits some of your capital sources. Can you talk about how you think about kind of the size of your business and the roadmap for that based on the market and kind of what you've learned over the past couple of years? Because we've had kind of the how do you get investment, how do you grow conversation over the years. I'm kind of curious how that viewpoint has changed.
Well, actually, we did secure some funding last year, a small amount of funding. Our methodology for building out the company is a very lean model. We employ a lot of automation, so we don't have to keep a lot of employee overhead in the building stage. As we scale, that process should be rather painless, the way that we're set up. Our biggest challenge always, and it was last year, is this customer acquisition problem. I will be spending a lot more time this year focusing in on getting partnerships with the unions. One of our challenges early on as a startup in this space, the nuclear space, doesn't really accept a lot of new companies. Same thing with unions. They're not really interested in like brand new brands. They're very scared of these things. Now that we have 2 years of history, we've been out in the community, we've built some social media community resources for the nuclear workers in general. This should give us enough traction, I feel like, to really focus in on getting these unions on board. And they're literally going to open the floodgates. We're talking about millions of potential eyeballs on our product of exactly the people that want to purchase us.
Another question for you up here.
When you acquire a new customer for the dollar per month amount, how long are they committing?
That is an excellent question. We actually have to build some analytics. So typically, if you're going to come in and subscribe and you want to commit to a monthly payment plan, there's no contract length with that. We just recurringly bill your credit card every month. You can also purchase a yearly subscription all up front, which cuts your cost in half. So from $20 a month to $10 a month, you pay us 1 year in advance. We do have customer churn. From year 1 to year 2, we do have customer churn. I don't have a way to quantify that right now inside of our system. That's one of the pieces we're going to be working on here to have tighter analytics and understanding of how our customers change over time. I don't have a good answer to quantify exactly how much that happens, but it does.
When your customers sign on with a project, whether it's 30 days or 90 days, do you know whether they actually end up staying on with that plant longer, or is it just over after that contract period is up?
There is a potential for some of these guys to be sticking around longer than that. It would be a very small percentage, probably less than 1%. We don't have any way of tracking that right now. That is one of the verticals that we were looking at, is building a time tracking app for these guys to use on their phone to keep a log of their hours, and then we would have access to some of that data and see what that picture actually looks like.
So since you don't track it, you wouldn't necessarily monetize it in any way. I know, like with most staffing companies, you know, if they're going to put you on temporary and someone hires you on, then you earn something for that. Have you thought about maybe integrating that into your model?
Possibly. We have a lot of intricacies there. We don't really want to be viewed as something that would be competing to the unions. So the unions are collecting hourly dues on these workers, and they're providing this work tracking service. So that may be something possible in the future, but there would be a lot of negotiation to make sure that that was friendly with the unions before we attempted a program like that.
So in a perfect world scenario, where do you see yourself 5 years from now?
In a perfect world scenario, 5 years from now, we are the resource for these traveling nukers. The cool thing about the project that we're working on here is we're talking about organizing labor on a national scale, which is really cool. We're talking about promoting high-paying, middle-class jobs, and I want to deliver the best talent we can to our infrastructure that supports our country. Without power production in this country, that would change the entire face of how we do business every day as Americans. And I want to make sure that as a company, we're promoting this high-skilled labor, getting the best work done that we possibly can at these plants to keep them running and keep the electricity cheap for everybody.
Okay, so one final question. What can we do as a community to help you?
That is a very good question. It just so happens that I may have prepared a slide for this. So, oh man, that didn't work out. It's supposed to be a white background. We are looking a lot for soft introductions. Also, as audience members, you may have friends, family, or relatives that are in the building and construction trades. If you know any of these people, let them know that we exist. They might not necessarily be in the nuclear industry, but we're a tool that could help them get into that industry if they were interested. Coincidentally, being a tradesman in nuclear power is the safest heavy industrial environment you can work in. And it's one of the most highest paying fields of all the construction, heavy industrial construction you could be in. So there's some advantage for the people that you know to join our site and enter this industry. We're also looking for any soft introductions to construction, nuclear utility companies. Training managers in plants would be excellent because we may be able to work with them to have them promote us through the training process. Plant managers, other people inside of the utility companies that might have these connections would be excellent for us. Some of the bigger ones in nuclear, Entergy, Exelon, Progress, TVA, Duke Energy. Also, any soft introductions to anybody that works at the NRC, the Nuclear Regulatory Commission, or any of the nuclear construction companies. Big names there, CB&I, Shaw, Dane Zimmerman, Bechtel, Alstom. And like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, help us spread the word, and thank you guys so much.
Thanks everybody for coming out today. If anybody has any questions about applying to 1 Million Cups, please come see one of us organizers. We're usually congregating over in this area either before or after the presentation. So I hope to see you guys all next week.